Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today is day 8 in our AU August series. This one is Feathered AU. I also want to give you a forewarning that this is hurt, no comfort, so listen with caution. Let me read to you a feather at a time. The feather will help ease your pain, but you should seek more specific help if you would like to be cured of your ailments long term. Yeah, sure, of course. Logan had told himself he wouldn't make a habit of giving out his feathers. He knew they had power in them, but he found himself unable to stop the gesture of goodwill. Every time a traveler would stumble upon his house seeking aid, he would be suffocated by the pull of compassion. It was in his nature to be kind, though he hoped to educate at the same time. This, however, wasn't the first time that a traveler brushed his knowledge aside. Many before had stumbled upon his humble shack, seeking refuge and finding a miracle. He would consistently tell them that his feathers could only help temporarily, that they weren't a permanent cure, but an outline for proper treatment. They didn't listen. It bristled his feathers to know he wasn't listened to. He knew they meant nothing by it. Relief from pain made people careless. Still, he hoped that eventually someone would take his lessons to heart. Traveling in these lands was dangerous. Trying to get from one place of civilization to another was a perilous journey, and Logan understood far too well how difficult it could be for someone to make their way to a safe town. That was why, despite his convictions, he gave away his feathers to those in need, because everyone deserved a helping hand. Oh wow, I'm already feeling a lot better. This is amazing, kiddo. That's quite the talent that you have there. Even if this traveler didn't listen, it was nice to be complimented. Logan puffed up with pride, smiling wide in happiness. Comments like this made each lost feather worth it. I hope that wasn't too much of a bird in? He shouted with a wave as he walked away. Logan deflated. Was the compliment meant to be just a joke? Was that all he was worth? A poorly constructed pun as the person he helped walked away to return to their life? They were all going to fall ill again when the feather's magic ended. No one listened, and he was mad. Logan sighed, allowing melancholy to overtake him. He didn't give out his feathers because he wanted recognition. Praise was not his goal, but it would have been nice. He just wanted to hear someone thank him for what he was doing, things he was giving up so that others could make it to safety. His wings curled in, trying to protect him from the rejection and the loneliness, though it was an illogical and useless effort. Those were not feelings Logan could shelter himself from externally, no matter how hard he tried, and he did try. He hid himself in books about the stars. He hid himself in gardening techniques and proper schedules. Logan hid himself from a world that he refused to admit wanted nothing more than to use him and leave him aside. With the traveler gone, Logan hid again. Pulling his wings closer to himself, he ran his fingers over the feathers. They had grown thin over the years, barely sheltering him from the cold. It was going to be a rough winter. The winter came, leaving Logan feeling a cold that clung to his bones, deep and throbbing. He ignored it, attempting to warm himself by a fire, rereading his favorite books, and simply existing. As travelers came, he would offer them food, warmth, and shelter. If they desired, he was even willing to offer them conversation, though very few were willing to take him up on that offer. Word of his magic feathers had spread, a rumor that many people sought to find the truth behind. Are you perchance the winged creature of the forest? I have wings, and I live in the forest, so that is a likely assumption, though I'm not sure if there are others of my kind. The rumors speak only of you. The traveler shivered, pulling his yellow gloves tighter around his hands. May I come in? It is rather cold. Logan invited him into the small cottage, a warm fire already blazing. Feel free to relax by the fire. Would you like a bowl of soup? Yes, that would be lovely. I am Logan, he said as he handed the traveler his soup. Janice. The two talked for hours, discussing philosophy and the state of the world. Logan allowed a smile to hang on his face longer than it had for a very long time. Then, the discussion became more personal. We all learn from those who raised us, which means if we don't take an active role in bettering ourselves, we will only perpetuate the negative views on the world that we were taught. That's all well and good, but what about those who don't know where they came from? They may not necessarily have a frame of reference to view their negative traits outside of themselves, and therefore never be able to change and improve. Logan asked, his wings relaxing gently behind him. In that case, I assume this hypothetical person would have to observe others around them and do their best to be self-aware. And what if there aren't others around them? Janice sat down his drink, looking Logan in the eyes. Have we shifted from hypothetical to reality? I fear we might have. I would love to keep this hypothetical, but I have no frame of reference. As those who visit me often do so for such a short time, it is hard to see my own traits in them. Fascinating. Did you not have parents who raised you? Not that I remember. Is it because you have lived a longer than average life, or is it for some other reason? I don't believe my life is much longer than that of humans, though I don't have much reference. But I have no memories before I was already well enough educated to be on my own. Janice nodded, looking into his mug in thought. I wonder what kind of upbringing you had. If the rumors are true, you willingly give away a piece of yourself to all those who ask. Only those who need it. And where does that leave you? Logan remained silent for a moment, really thinking about those words. Where did it leave him? He wasn't sure he was ready for that answer, so he did what he did best, pushed the thought away, and hid. What about you? What was your upbringing like? The shift in the topic wasn't subtle by any means, but Janice seemed to indulge him. I was taught to fight for what I wanted and needed in life, to take time for myself. Self-care and conscientiousness were very important parts of my life. Interesting. Logan couldn't help but fall into thought again. Though he understood the importance of self-care, it almost felt like that was a concept reserved for other people. Though, maybe that was because he rarely got the chance to be around others, so when he did, he wanted them to be happy. Maybe then they would stay. Janice let him think for a while before interrupting those thoughts. May I have one of your feathers? But you are not ill. No, but I would like to study it. You seem like a man who understands science. I do, but... Was self-care really reserved for everyone but himself? He should try to set boundaries, to protect himself from future winters, but you do not need one, and I would prefer to try to keep my feathers, he said softly, saying no for the first time he could remember. That's fair. Janice dropped the subject, and Logan felt elated that he had said no, and it had been respected. Their conversation continued, and Logan's feathers fluffed happily. In the morning, he woke up, short one feather, and a companion. He curled tightly on his bed, trying to calm the shaking that desperately fought against every nerve in his body, trying to push down the anger. His cottage fell silent, leaving his loneliness to echo through the forest. After that, Logan didn't receive any more visitors. The path to his cottage remained untrodden, and the only sound that accompanied him was the sound of the forest and the sound he made on his own. At first, Logan was thankful that he was no longer being asked to give up his feathers. He was no longer being taken apart one smile at a time. But then the isolation began to crush him. He wasn't sure what Janice had done, but not a single soul came to visit him in his cottage. His loneliness grew stronger, but his feathers stayed intact. It was bittersweet to have the peace of not plucking his feathers out, but the emptiness of being so completely alone stifled that joy. Logan had relied on the travelers to keep him company, his wings too thin to carry him on the winds anymore. Even when they did not listen to him, he enjoyed listening to their stories and learning about the world. He had thought about leaving the forest, but he was terrified that leaving his cottage would open him up to a hatred in the world that he didn't know how to handle. Instead, he chose to stay in his domain of isolation, the beast he knew, rather than the one he didn't. Thank you all for listening. I do hope you enjoyed that story. If you would like to know more about the world or about what Janice did with the feathers, please feel free to check out my Discord. The link is down below. I do hope you have a wonderful day.